All right. Well, thanks everybody. Appreciate staying up late, but obviously a little bit later announcement today. What we'll start out here is have Jim Knowlton give a quick opening statement, and then we'll open it up for questions. If you could just raise your hand and let me know, and I'll try to call on you to go around and just direct it either to Jim Knowlton or Justin Wilcox as we go through. So with that, Jim, if you want to take it away and give a few opening words.
Well, thanks everybody for taking the time tonight. I know it's late. It's been a long day, and we thank you for taking the time to spend with us. Obviously, you've probably read the Pac-12 news. You've read our releases. You've seen the breaking news about us deciding to begin play for our football and winter sports here in the fall. Obviously, we're excited, but it's I think cautiously optimistic is probably the right word. We've been watching what's been going on across the country. Some schools have had some fits and starts. And so I think really for us, the news is that through some great work by our chancellors and presidents, the Pac-12 leadership, a lot of coordination with the governor, local health authorities, and really our colleagues across the league. We've been meeting with ADs 3 times a week at least, and many weeks more than that. And as I thought about it, I thought we've debated it, we've discussed it, we've had robust really disagreements, but at the end of the day, the Pac-12, both the ADs, the chancellors, the presidents, and our Pac-12 leadership really have been united in what we're trying to do regarding the safety of our student athletes. And I think we were deliberate in our approach, and obviously we're cautiously optimistic as we move forward with playing games starting in November. I think the one thing I would say, and people have asked what changed, and I think you all knew the 3 reasons we delayed the season, and it was just the virus spread in the Pac-12 areas, school areas, the lack of testing and the ability to get quick results, and then some of the concerns on myocarditis. And now if you look around at where all the schools are, almost everywhere the spread of the virus has gone down significantly. Getting daily testing, antigen testing has been a game changer for us, and we supplement that with PCR testing, and when you can get results immediately, it really gives you a good chance to keep out of the locker room and off the field. And then the last thing is we've learned a lot more about myocarditis in the last month and a half, and I think we've seen a lot of experts who have now really helped us understand better and how to detect it and what we need to do to continue to keep our players safe. So I think it's probably all I need to say, and I'd love to hear your questions and open it up. And I'm excited to have Coach Wilcox on with me. So I'll let him take all the hard questions, and I'll try to cover the easy ones if you'll let me.
All right, thanks, Jim. Before we get started, just a reminder, if everybody could stay mute until it's time to ask a question, just so we get a little bit cleaner feed that way. So with that, we'll open up for questions. Just raise your hand and I'll call in. We'll start with Jeff Ferrato. And Jeff, you're now muted, so you need to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me, Jim?
I got you, Jeff.
Great. Can you just take us through whether or not you guys are fully cleared now locally and by every group that needs to clear you and approve you, and what's the schedule for practice, and what are you able to do starting when?
So it's a great question, and we got all of our test kits and our testers on Wednesday. And so today our trainers went through training. I think there's a little bit more training, and I imagine by midweek next week, we'll be able to test every single day. And the reason that's important is you can't start contact until you're able to test every single day. Some other things, and again, we've been talking to Berkeley Public Health a lot. Some other things are the cohorts. Right now we have a cohort of 25, and we've been told that the state is going to increase cohorts to a larger number, and we're waiting for that feedback as well. We don't need it right now, but certainly as we get into contact, we're going to need to be able to have larger cohorts. And so really, it's what the NCAA allows us to do. It's what we can do based on, the testing. But certainly in the next 2 weeks, we should be able to start practices. And I'll defer to Justin on the dates, because he's going to really look at what the team needs and develop our schedule.
But in terms of what you can do, say tomorrow or Saturday, where is that at right now?
Yeah, I'll follow up on that. So we brought the team back a week ago, and for the last, I don't know how many ever months, it's been groups of 12 and, 6 feet apart outside, no shared equipment. And then we just, in the last couple of days, got clearance to increase the cohort size to 25. So tomorrow will be our first day with a bigger group, increased to 25. And they can actually, they can use some shared equipment, but they can't be within the 6-foot bubble. So it allows us to grow the groups. There's a little bit more that we can do. The key to the whole thing is, as Jim mentioned, is once we get the daily testing, and they'll allow us to basically close the bubble and be in each other's space. That's where you can start walkthroughs and practice. And I've been informed by the conference, or excuse me, I shouldn't say, we are waiting on the final schedule. I reached out to the conference this afternoon. I anticipate the first day of our camp being October 9th, but that has not been confirmed yet, but that's what we have been prepped for. So in the meantime, we would be under 12-hour rules under the current public health guidelines, which is cohorts of 25. Hopefully that grows with our daily testing implemented next week. And then again, anticipating camp starting October 9th, which is a Friday.
And coaches are allowed to be involved to a slightly larger degree beginning tomorrow?
Yeah, we can go out on the field. It's again, you have to be part of the cohort, so you're limited on some numbers, and then you got to be 6 feet apart and keep the social distancing. And we have a protocol we go through every day when we enter the building that we follow as coaches. And meetings are, there's no indoor meetings right now. Nothing like that. Everything's on Zoom. And so there's still something. We'll see where the indoor meetings go. We have not been cleared to do that. I don't know if next week with the daily testing, if that will essentially be loosened up or not. We'll see what the public health order says, but we can be more involved, some position specific things in terms of, what they can do on the field. But in terms of meeting, it's all Zoom.
And weightlifting is still outside?
Yeah, correct. We are outside.
Thank you.
We'll go with Bruce Feldman.
Thanks, Herb. Hey, Justin, I was just curious, in terms of, because of what you guys have been so limited on what you can do physically with your guys and limited in the weight room, how big of a concern for you as a coach is it to not get rushed back from an additional injury risk standpoint?
I think it's a great question, and it's something we've been really thinking about here for the last couple weeks when the testing got ramped back up, or we were informed that this daily testing could open things back up and there could be a possibility that we would come back and play this fall. And a month ago, when the decision was made to initially postpone for the reasons that it got postponed for, a lot of teams, including us, gave some guys some flexibility. Some went home, some stayed here. There was some voluntary workouts going on. We brought our team back last week. I would say, there's a range of conditioning. A lot of guys did conditioning on their own. They continue to work out. Some guys didn't have access to that. How we bring them back and prepare them to play is going to be, critical. And this will not be a traditional camp. And so we're going to have to be really thoughtful and really, really efficient with our time with them, and also how we prepare their bodies to get ready to play a game, because it's, yeah, it is a tight window. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And there are concerns that we have, because we have concerns for our players, for obviously the COVID concerns, but then, getting their bodies prepared to play a game, and don't want to put them out there if they're not ready. But we feel like we have a good start, and a lot of guys who have come back and prepared well on their own. And we'll make sure that we give them the best opportunity throughout the next month and a half, or whatever that is, to get them ready to play a game. And we've been discussing that at length daily.
Okay. Thank you, Justin.
Good. Mike Pulaski next.
Hey, Coach. Hey, Jim. So I assume when you say no shared equipment, that means there were no footballs involved in any of the workouts for one, right?
So you can now, that's part of the new, we can actually now share a football within a cohort. So if this group that's on the call is a cohort, we could share a ball with each other, but we couldn't be within each other's space. And after this group's done working out, you got to clean all the stuff, and that's how it works. So within the cohort, you could share a ball. That's part of the new order. So yes, they can. Up to this point, they could not.
And so what kind of condition, what kind of shape would you say they're in right now? And then how much do you think you're going to have to kind of tailor what you do in terms of complexity going forward?
I would say a good number of the guys had continued working out on their own. It's kind of part of their daily lives, So again, a month ago when things got postponed, some guys went home, some guys stayed here, some guys had access to workouts. We had some voluntary workouts going on. It's not quite the same as it's just not the same as being in a summer program where it's every day and it's mandatory. So when we came back, not every single guy was in the same level of conditioning. So we're really tailoring it to the individual. So I wouldn't say we're ready to play today. I mean, we're just not. Now we'll get there, and we're going to have to be real thoughtful about how we do that with each individual. And your question on complexity, I think it's going to be really important that we are, again, we're not going to have a lot of overage, whether it's offense, defense, or special teams. We don't have time to be inefficient with install and, put in 3,000 blitzes and call them twice. That's not going to be worth our time. So same thing on offense. And I also think there's, everybody's going to have a role. I mean, I think every guy on the team who can help us win a game is going to have a role. And whether it's packaged on offense or defense or special teams, or maybe the guy is the best L5 and he's a freshman, so be it. I think it's going to be really fun to take ownership for all those guys and have them find a role on the team, because it is a unique season.
Thanks, Coach.
And next, we'll go John Branch. John.
Hey, Justin, a couple, I think, pretty quick questions. One is on the eligibility. I believe these guys, it will not count toward eligibility this season. Is that right?
That's what I've been told.
Okay. Have you had any kids that have opted out, or who have said, it's either not worth it for me to come do this for 6 games, or I just don't feel right about this?
We have had a small number of guys opt out. So yes, but the overwhelming majority guys, they want to play, and thankfully we've had some great support from our administration and our support staff and our doctors to provide a protocol that they feel good about. And so we've had the overwhelming majority guys want to play, and I think again the protocols and the testing they feel good about. But there are a couple who have opted out, and there's no judgment there. And we'll release the roster shortly, and when it's appropriate here in the next, I don't know, when it's appropriate, we'll release the roster, and you'll see who's in and who's out.
That's kind of what I wanted to get at, was the kids who have opted out. I'm sure it's a difficult decision because there's peer pressure. They might feel like there's coaching pressure. They might feel their scholarships are at stake or something. What do you tell them about this season?
We told them well before it was deemed by the Pac-12 conference that they were guaranteed eligibility. I mean, we way back when, just felt like this was going to be a situation where it was going to be an opt-in. If you were comfortable with the protocols provided and the care provided from a COVID standpoint, and you wanted to be a part of it, then you would opt in and be a part of the team moving forward. And if you weren't, there's no judgment there, that they would have their scholarship. And then, you know, I think the conference shortly thereafter, everybody knew that that was the right thing to do. But I don't get a sense that there's a lot of judgment for guys. I mean, we just kind of presented it to them. It's their choice. This is their life and it's their experience. And if they feel good about it and want to do it, awesome. We're going to be here and support them and coach them and take care of them. And if they don't, we understand, and we'll see them next time around.
Can I ask a quick question of Jim?
Go ahead. Yeah.
While I have the mic. Hey, Jim, I know on the Pac-12 call, the Oregon president said this wasn't about money. I don't think you could probably hear maybe some of the chuckles from the people in the Zoom call. Without being sarcastic about this, your guys' budget, you have talked about maybe having a $50 million hole in your budget without football. And I wonder what this does to help plug that. Do you have any idea what the media rights will be for this kind of season? You're not gonna be able to sell tickets, for example. What's the financial benefit of playing?
That's a good question. And I think, you know, we knew what our budget was if we played a full season and COVID had never happened. We knew what our budget was if we didn't have any football. And so this is going to be somewhere in between. And I think, you know, we're going to work with our TV partners, you know, Fox and ESPN, to really determine, you know, what does it mean if we're playing 41 games that are available to them instead of the 44 that is the normal year. So we can probably make a pretty good estimate of what the TV rights will be, but right now we haven't gotten to those kind of details yet.
Okay, thank you.
John, that article was good. I just didn't like the title.
I don't know what the title was.
No, I'm talking about the one you just did was great. Our coaches loved it, our fans loved it, and alums loved it. Did you see what the title was?
Yeah, but I don't have it in front of me. I don't remember what it was. I don't do the headlines.
Oh, okay. Then that makes sense. I thought what you did was really good.
Oh, thanks.
So Trace, did you have a question?
Yes, I have one for Justin. Multiple football teams, college teams across the country have limited their roster size because of COVID. Is that something that you guys have talked about at the conference level as far as having to deal with maybe limiting the amount of walk-ons you guys have?
Yeah, we have discussed it as part of, you know, is it best for the program? But there's also consideration, you know, on the public health order on how many people can you have in a cohort, even when we get this testing going, you know, what's that number like? The conference hasn't given us any direction on having, you know, or mandating a cut down. We talked at length about some travel roster numbers and numbers available to play a game, those type of things, which I imagine they'll be releasing. But I think it's the institutions, I would imagine, are going to have the final say on how many they want to keep on a roster during this fall. So yeah, we've been talking about that quite a bit.
I also have a question for Jim, if I can, if I still have the mic.
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to, in the release you guys put out, you referred to a 10% capacity for indoor work. Does that, or as allowed by the Berkeley Public Health Department, does that allow for the basketball teams to get back inside the gym on their courts?
Yes, I have two very, very happy basketball coaches right now, so that we can start using Haas Pavilion and Gold Gym at the 10% level, which based on square footage, you know, gives them in Haas 29 people on the court at one time, and in Gold Gym about 20. So meets the needs for both of the programs.
Thank you.
Thanks. Is anybody next? Jeff, go ahead.
This is for Jim. Can you hear me, Jim?
Yes, got you, Jeff.
I'd like to talk about the football schedule that you guys will be receiving in a few days. The Bay Area schools and the Los Angeles schools traditionally have always been assured playing each other all those games. I don't think it's possible to guarantee that, but I'm wondering if you've been told for sure that your one regular season crossover game will definitely be against one of the LA schools? And would they then attempt to give you the other one in the 7th game if that is possible?
That's a great question. And we've modeled multiple models. I mean, I can't even describe to you the models we've had since, sometime in May. And we have a 7-game model that we're looking at. We're going to play all of the teams in the North. And then the parts that haven't been determined is who do you play that last game if you're not in the championship game, and then who our crossover team will be. And those are things that we'll be working on tomorrow. We've got 2 hours in the morning to start working through both basketball and football scheduling.
Would you dig in your heels on that? Is that something that you think really is important to maintain? Or since fans aren't going to be able to be at the games anyway, and it doesn't really affect your gate, does it matter as much?
Obviously we love the rivalry games of, the other California schools, but because this is such a crazy year, there's nothing that is really normal. And so as we work through options, a couple of the options I looked at to do some of the things you're talking about would have forced 3 other teams to have to play either away or at home against the same team 3 years in a row. And so every decision you make has, second and third order effects. And so that's really what we're going to have to dig our teeth into tomorrow to finalize. And I would imagine next week early, we'll be putting out a schedule.
If I can ask one quick follow-up, the games that are played on the championship weekend for the non-championship teams, will those be announced like the Sunday after the final regular season game? Is that how that's going to work?
I would imagine, yeah. We won't be able to announce them until we know, who is not playing in the championship game. And then, we've talked about anything from after those 2 teams are gone, the next, number 2 versus number 2, 3 versus 3. But I think we're going to have more discussions with our football coaches before we make those decisions.
And I would presume you would not play again against the team you played cross division in the regular season, right?
Yeah, I don't think we'd want to. I think, the fun of it is to play a different team every week. So I think we'll probably put in a few of those guiding principles, and then those will help us get to, a final solution on that last weekend.
Okay, do we have any other questions? All right, Jasper, go ahead. And we'll get to Jackson after that.
Hey, Coach. So during the larger Pac-12 call earlier, I think Ray Anderson mentioned the possibility of bowl games. I just wanted to ask what those possibilities are, if you guys have any idea at this point. And then, Coach, more specifically, with this 7-game schedule, what are your and the team's goals for this season?
The bowl game situation, I obviously would be dictated by us being aligned with the other conferences, which this timing allows us to do that. I think, again, it's going to be such a unique year that I don't know how, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of talk on how they determine what's bowl eligible, what isn't, how are they going to do the matchup. So certainly would love to be involved and have the opportunity to do that. I think the goals for us, first and foremost, are to get back on the field. I mean, this is going to be the type of season, and this experience is going to be really on a short-term focus. Certainly, we all want to go out and compete. I know coaches do, the players do. I know the fans are excited probably to get back, with some football on TV and all that. But the first thing we got to do is get ourselves back on the field and have a great walkthrough, have a great practice, and then we'll start talking about, the bigger picture goals. We have goals as a team that we talk about each and every year, but to be honest, these last couple of weeks have been, we've had to be really flexible and nimble because things are changing extremely fast, and we're looking forward to getting on the field so we can work together. That's our first goal.
Okay, Jackson.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Jasper, Jasper, do you have a follow-up?
I can go later. It's not super.
Okay, go ahead, Jackson.
Justin, as you mentioned earlier, a much different camp this year than what you would normally have. Just from a head coach's standpoint, what are the most significant differences you're expecting with your practices this year?
Well, the first thing is the lead up has been very different. You know, we haven't had a traditional off season or a summer in terms of our physical preparation. The camp itself will be different because of the Kara hours, we call them, how much time you can spend with them. We anticipate that being more of an in-season schedule, a 20-hour rule, as we call it, as opposed to an unlimited amount of time in a traditional fall camp. So the efficiency that we do things is going to be so key. Physically, you know, how we prepare our bodies, that there's not a wasted moment or a day or a treatment session or a workout. How we administer practice, you know, what we practice, what we install, the amount of time we practice early in camp, and how we start to mesh and prepare our bodies to lead up to that first game. So it's going to be a great challenge. I know everybody's excited for it. It will be different. And we're spending a lot of time just looking at our players, kind of where are they in their, you know, physically, and then what do we need to do to prepare them to play a game, not only physically, but also, you know, football wise, and getting them prepared, offense and defense and special team, for the schemes and all those things. So it's just going to be different. It's going to be a fun challenge. I know our guys are fired up. I mean, when they got the news today, they were jacked, just like we all were. And so that's part of the fun of it. You know, we're going to embrace it. And we look forward to, like I said, getting on the field together, spending some time as a team, and getting ready for that first game.
Okay, Rick, go ahead.
Coach Wilcox, speaking of the energy, do you think the kind of no fans in the stadiums, is that going to affect your play? How are you going to kind of keep up the motivation and kind of that energy there?
I think players love having the fans in the stands. I mean, I think that's part of college football, but I wouldn't say that's the only reason people play. And in fact, I'm sure it's not the only reason. You know, guys love the competition. We all do this, you know, for basically for a living. You know, the coaches do, the players spend so much time preparing throughout the off season and weight training and meetings and all these things. And they want to go out and compete. And would we love to have all of our fans and to be in the stands? Absolutely. But that's just something that's out of our control right now. So it's not something we're going to spend mental energy on, because there's nothing we can do about it, you know? So is it going to be different? Yeah, it's going to be different. But I know our team and I know the guys in our program are going to be excited to play and compete, because that's what they came here to do.
Okay, is that going to do it for everybody? Okay, one last one from Jasper.
Sorry, if no one else wants to go. President Schill talked about, again, in the press conference earlier, about there being a lot of pros and cons weighed between having a winter, spring season and then going ahead with the fall season. Can you guys speak as to what any of those pros and cons were for both those particular situations?
Sure, I can start. You know, obviously, when you look at the pros and you looked at 4 of the 5 Pac-12 schools are, you know, going to play, you know, we obviously want to, Power 5 schools are going to play. We want to align with them if we think it's going to be safe. And so, you know, one of the pros of making this decision, once we had daily testing and, you know, all of the other things were falling into place, was it put us in the CFP mix. It put us back into a fall season. And I think that was important if we could do it safely. You know, I think some of the other pros are just our student athletes. They wanted to play. They're watching everybody else in the country play. And I feel like there was a strong desire for them to get that same opportunity if we could do it safely. And, you know, some of the cons are we don't know everything about the virus. You know, that's obviously a piece of it. And, you know, on some of the campuses, there's not as much going on. And, you know, on our campus in particular, if you read the chancellor's note, you know, she talked about what we've been doing to slowly bring people back onto campus. we brought a couple thousand undergraduate students and graduate students onto campus to live in housing, single occupancy, but we did it very, very safely. And we've had student athletes doing voluntary workouts. So I think one of the things that she really is looking at is how do we gradually and deliberately bring more onto campus safely as we prepare for the spring semester. And so I think those were sort of the ones that really were bantered around a lot inside those closed rooms with both athletic directors and then ultimately with the CEOs.
All right, is that going to do it for everybody? All right, so one reminder, if you haven't gone on calbears.com, you can click on the press release in the Pac-12. If you scroll to the bottom, you'll find statements from Chancellor Christ, Jim Knowlton, Coach Wilcox, Mark Fox, Sharman Smith, and a couple of our football student athletes, if that helps you at all. And if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, thanks so much, and we'll see everybody later.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Go
Thanks,
Bears.
Guys.
Go Bears.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.